And we looked up the license, and obviously we didn't find one. And I did say, you're fucked. I didn't say do this or do that. I said, you're fucked.
Oh, yeah. You said I'm fucked. Yeah. You said
so I basically told Scott, you're done. That money's gone.
If you stop the pipeline of their further scamming, like then maybe they'll pay attention. Now it might be worth it to pay me my money.
It sounds like as soon as you made, raised the potential that they could be doing something criminal, that legitimate business was like, oh shit, okay, we got to address this.
The Behind the Lines podcast is proud to be sponsored by SXBet, the world's most sophisticated crypto betting exchange. Millions traded every month with 0% fees, all on the chain. Never fight for a withdrawal. Your money is always yours using advanced wallet technology. Fair, transparent, and limitless. Bet on SX.
Welcome, and it's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Pace here. We've got Scotty Longshot on the show today. The madness is building. What is Ozune doing? Was a UFC fight fixed this weekend? And what does it mean for a market to be endogenous? Yeah, I'm going to be dropping some big words later in the show. But first, Scotty, welcome to Behind the Lines. Really excited to have you on here. You're joining for the whole show. You're one of Pace's good buddies. People on stream, on the IPL streams, have certainly heard you being talked about, seen you message a little bit here and there. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and what kind of sports bettor are you?
Fellas, thanks for having me on. I'm Scotty. As you mentioned, I've known Pace since, I think it's been since the 8th grade now. I would imagine most of the stories you've heard about us have been in Vegas and us gambling, those types of anecdotes. But I've been gambling.
You've heard a few.
And there's plenty of those. I've been gambling for about 15 years now, and I would say that my style is generally plus money. I take stuff that are long odds. My brain is wired to be wrong way more often than I'm right. And I find that's a great way to mitigate my risk. So for me, I'm not really good at betting. Not to say there isn't EV. I know lots of people make a ton of money betting minus 110s and stuff. I'm just not wired that way. I'm wired to win 1 in 4 when I'm getting paid 1 in 5. That's just how I'm wired. So I generally take big plus money bets most of the time.
Gotcha. Well, we've had some people on the show before that take that approach. The one that comes to mind most famously, Adam Bjorn of Prime, Bet Chris, and that whole group there. He sort of took the same approach where he was taking long shot stuff and coming out ahead most of the time.
It's funny because we were talking about the thing before the show started about maxing out alt player prop lines.
Yeah.
And it's funny you bring up Adam, because I remember when he was on the show, he mentioned something where he was like, you just have to hit one golfer a season.
Yeah.
And that is such a bizarre way of thinking for betting, because that means that you won't have profitable seasons, and you're like, you know what I mean? You don't hit a golfer in the season, and you're just like, you got to make up for it somewhere. And sometimes that might mean waiting for the next year. And then that also makes me think about having Pete on from the Smart Betting Club, where he's like, when we audit a betting group, sometimes it takes 5 years because we need to see multiple seasons come through based on the volume that they have for what they're doing. Right. And it actually makes me feel fortunate that we live bet, because I'm like, my sample size needs to be like weekly for me to
Yeah. Well, I would say that depends on your brain a lot, like how your brain's wired for it. I would say there are a few benefits to this when it comes to gambling, is that I generally can get more out of books, because I'll lose a bunch going in and then I'll just smack them hard on a few things. And before you know it, I blew up the account in a week. And I can get more money, as opposed to something that's more systematic and the EV is just consistent. And they're like, oh, this guy's a pro. See you later. So I can find, depending on what it is, sometimes you can get an account to have a lot more legs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And so you've got a book story that you're going to share a little bit later in the show, Scott. Look forward to hearing about that and how you got paid in the book. And we'll get into that. But We're talking about blowing up accounts, breaking accounts, and this is March. And boy, did we feel it this past week, Pacer. At inplayLIVE, it was awesome. Streams were popping. We were sailing over. Oh, shout out Sean Marshfield. Marsh with the song. Wow. This guy dropped a banger for us.
Yeah, and I think it's the jury's still not in or out as to whether people think or know it's AI versus whether they think it's him still. But I know there's a good chunk of people that think he actually performed that song. And I really hope he comes to our annual event, because if he does, we're going to have a live performance of the track, I think, Shane.
Well, absolutely. You got to have a live performance. And I mean, the guy already looks like Jelly Roll in a lot of ways. I mean, we've teased him about that, and got to hang out with him in Vegas last summer a little bit. And he's a fun guy, man. Would love to hang out with him again anytime.
Well, we said this last week, Shane, but I think the more important lesson here is, like, if you're someone, because this is what happens, Shane. We'll get people that say you can't miss March Madness with inplayLIVE, and they join for the tournament. And I'm always kind of like, it's almost kind of tired then. Like, the first 4 days are good, but even then it's nothing like last week. No, and it's nothing like this week.
No, these are the weeks, the beginning of March. You want to be like signed up March 1st and like dialed in for these 2 weeks.
Yeah, so kind of like just public announcement. You know, we have tons of ways to get in. If you're looking to get in now, we've very much made things a la carte. So if you're like, you know, if I want 1 stream a week, if I want 3 streams a week, you can pick your days. So yeah, check us out. And I if you're listening to this right now, I'd say if you're not in today, figure it out and join us for it and have some fun with us. And it's super risk free now too. You can buy for 1 month where you do 3 streams a week and you pick your 3 days so that you can build it around your schedule with your family, and boom, you're in it. So just some stats from this past week. Not to toot our own horn, but my God, it was unbelievable. We were 83 wins, 43 losses, 8 units, and a 25% ROI on college basketball. Now, that is not my personal stats as a bettor, and I think everyone always has to understand that. Like, the way we operate is very much in line with making sure that wherever you are, you have the ability to join us on whatever works for you in your situation. So I didn't get that many bets down myself, but the ones I did have a similar ROI to that. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in a regulated market or outside of a regulated market. There are options for you to hopefully make some cash.
Oh yeah, tons of options. Scotty, were you betting with us at all? And since you're a sort of a plus money guy, I'm assuming then if you were betting with us, you're betting like alt totals.
I listen to what everybody's doing, but I live in Canada, so I don't really have many books where, like, for me, like, I can hear the calls that are going on, but when I hear the limits that the American guys get on FanDuel and DraftKings, and they can bet 50K on these games, like, that's not a reality here. And for me, I have to look at a book and say, is it worth busting this book to make a couple $1,000? Whereas I can use it and hide. And like, I don't look at when I'm betting sports, I don't look at it as, oh, I'm going to make this much money on this sport. I look at it as, here's a book I have. How high can I get it? And how am I going to get it there? And so, like, for me as a Canadian, I haven't found the options to basically risk a book on college basketball. But it sounds like fire. Like, if I was sitting here in Indiana or wherever you guys are, like the Americans are, and they've got these limits on college basketball, I'd be blasting them. I would. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's fantastic calls going on. But what I do in college basketball is I wait and listen for money lines, and I try to do them on Polymarket because I'm not going to get limited on Polymarket.
Oh,
smart.
Right. Yeah.
Scotty, you got to tell us about when you used to, well, you and your brother, but you'd take time off work and you guys were working a glitch in March Madness. You got to tell us about that.
That was when I first started gambling. So we had this site called what was it? No, Play Now.
Oh, we still have it. We still have it.
Is it still around? Is it still here? I think they still owe me money. I had my mom. The last account I had was my mom's, and my mom was the type of person that would go into the principal's office and defend me, even though I was the one that pulled the fire alarm. Like, my mom's crazy. Like, I would always be in the wrong, but my mom would always do that. So like, she was the last Play Now account. And I think she got me paid $5,000 or something like that. But what they used to have in college basketball, this was years ago. This is probably 15 years ago. They had 0 countdown. So it was like click in. And so we were sitting there and we had like March Madness games, and we were able to bet them at the very end for like 50-1, 50-1 on a team that was like down 3, but we saw the 3 go in. Like there's the Madness 3 about to go in. So I think we hit like 3 50-1s in one day, and we're like, wow, we could be professional bettors. And we were just cheating. But like, that was what kind of got it going. It's like cheating got you in. You're like, oh, okay. So that was kind of how that got us looking for other things.
You know what's crazy about that, though, is I think many bettors have a similar story. And it doesn't matter if they, say, joined inplayLIVE and like learned from someone what to do, or something like what Scotty just referenced. But the thing is when you find an edge, however ridiculous it is, like obviously that one is like, it's hilarious and it's ridiculous, right? You find the edge, it changes your mindset. You think differently, because then you start looking like, okay, I can't do this anymore. They've closed this loophole. What's next for me? Some people just quit right then and there. They're like, oh, I've gotten the emails. College basketball team totals at how we used to bet them aren't there anymore. Like my book doesn't offer them, or they changed the numbers. Whereas Shane, I know you and me in particular, but many people in the group, it's like, okay, this aspect of it is gone. How can we continue? Or what's next?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And just keep looking for new, like I find a new thing every week. I remember getting the first edge taken away from you. It feels like you lost your best friend. But then you start on that journey of training your brain to think in probabilities. So that's like the journey beginning. So at the beginning, it gets really, really easy to recognize when things are wrong. You're like, that probability is just wrong. Bet it. And the more years, the more experience you get, you're able to like shave it down, because as you know, as your bankroll gets bigger, you have to find your margins become thinner to get the amount down that moves your blood. So like you just get sharper and sharper and sharper as you go. Like it's easy to look at 50-1 in a tie game is good. Like that's boom, we got it. But then you start looking at, hey, you know, the journey begins.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Big time.
Scott, were you watching the 3 on cable TV go in, or were you watching it on another sports book?
Yeah, cable TV.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that far behind?
I didn't know another sports book existed at this time. Like this was like 15 years ago. Like online betting wasn't even talked about with anybody. Yeah. We had just graduated from buying the little printouts from the gas
slips
station.
At 7-Eleven. Yep.
Yeah, the odds sets where you fill out the Scantron like you're doing a 12th grade exam. And so that's how I started degenerately gambling, was like stealing change from my dad's nightstand and going and making a bet slip.
We got a lot in common, Scotty.
Well, Scott, it's ingrained in him as a kid. Like I think his parents used to put him in the MGM Grand Daycare, and they had slots for kids. He'd be pulling them all day in Vegas.
Oh wow,
the kids' casino.
The kids' casino.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great stuff. All right, we should move things along here. And you know, as we talk about beating books and you know, finding edges and that kind of thing, sometimes the books find an edge on us, or sometimes they just cheat against us. And Pacer, you ran into this just recently with a book that is trying to overhaul its image in a way, perhaps, or at least that they've changed the branding. We've been talking about it here on the show for the past couple of weeks now, with Bodog changing over to Ozune. And, you know, Pacer, you were playing on there this weekend, and what did you find? What happened?
Well, I have a screen recording here. So if you're listening to just the podcast version, I will narrate it as it comes through. But yeah, this is Ozune. And what you're going to see here is the bet slip. and the markets for the game. So at the time, the Senators are up 7-2 on the Kraken, and you can see they have -4 two-way posted at odds of -145. And you can see that I go to place the bet here. So I place the bet at -4, and then you go look at the bet slip, and there it is at -5. And it's really clear too. You can see that the -4 is what's clicked on. You can see that once the bet is accepted, it says -4 still. And then once you go through to the bets themselves, it's -5. So there it is on the right, -4. There's the bet slip at -4 still. And then yes, click over to my bets and it's at -5. So you can see I'm betting $10 here, which is a test. So the reason why that one's a screen recording is because I had already seen the market and I was like, I know this is wrong, like inherently, kind of like what Scott was saying with the 50-1. I'm like, I know they're up 5, so -4 is just wrong. It should be -5 two-way. So I screen recorded intentionally because I figured, you know what, this is the right opportunity. But here are actual real bets that I made.
Yeah, a few grand
this is a screenshot because I didn't screen record, but on the right here, over 75.5 bet successfully placed. You can see these are sizable amounts, $3,168 to win, $2,880. And then on the left, my actual bets. And this is what it took. And there's no other bets because you can see right here my bet below that John called, Cade Cunningham MVP.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
right?
future.
So you know that I don't have anything else active because this was placed on February 5th. So this isn't a bunch of bullshit. This is all of my live bets right now. And you can see over 78.5 is
3 points. That's insane.
Now, here's what's crazy is I understand what's happening when this is happening. And I do have one more of these, but we don't need to keep showing them. You guys get the gist. What is happening, like Shane, from my standpoint, and like this is me playing devil's advocate against myself. The site is so fucking glitchy, it's almost unusable. But as you could see from my screenshot there, there's a healthy balance that's higher now than what was on there. It's worth it for me still. So this is part of the shit storm that we play in as winning bettors. You could just look at that and be like, oh, that's so shady, I'm never playing there, period. But again, like I've got, well north of $30,000 in there. It's worth it. It's so glitchy and the site is so fucked up. You refresh, it shows 75.5. You click the bet, it shows 75.5. You refresh again, it's still 75.5. You click the bet, you place the bet goes in, it goes in at 78.5. Once the bet goes in, it doesn't switch to 78.5. It still shows 75.5, where you could be like, oh my God, this is wrong. So are they trapping bettors? Are they tricking bettors? Sure. But I actually think the site is that bad, like that glitchy, that fucked up. That particular bet on the screen happened to still, it sailed. So
I was just going to say that still won, didn't it?
Yeah. That one still won. So no harm, no foul there. But obviously that isn't what, you're trying to do as a bettor is bet on things that are that broken. But yeah, that's what's going on over there. Wow.
Now, how would you say that the 75.5 compared to other lines that were out there? Because you're looking at multiple books. Was it 75.5 like much lower than what other books were offering in that moment?
I think that's what's kind of tricky is we're on stream and we're listening to Randy call like extremely soft lines on extremely soft books. Right. So I think at the time he did say Camby's at 75.5 and I'm taking it. And I was like, holy shit, I've got it a dog. No, I did not.
You did not.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah. You had 78.5. Still a winner.
Yeah. So other books, it was higher than other books, Shane. 78 was higher than other books. So it might have been 76, 77 elsewhere.
Right. Okay.
Right. And Randy called a softer line to the average line. Right.
Yeah. I wonder if you had placed an under on the 75.5, like what appeared to be 75.5, if the under would have shown up as 78.5.
Yeah, that'll be my next experiment when I know I'm in that spot, like with the Kraken bet that I showed.
Right,
Randy would be coming in saying, "Well, here's an opportunity to middle. I'll middle the glitch."
Yeah. Hey, that would be smart. Yeah, you could only, I think you could only be reverse middled if that was the case.
I was going to say that would be the reverse middle. You'd have to go like almost opposite there, but yeah.
Pace, would you say that that's more of a? Would you say that's more of a case of them, like having something in there to like give you the worst odds all the time, or just that the developers like just vibe coded the whole new site and didn't even like just cheaped out on developers?
I do think it's ingrained to do exactly what you just said. It's ingrained to make sure you get the worst price. So before they became Ozune, just dog in general, if you spun like a minus 125 on a line and you see the spooling process occur, so your bet hasn't snapped in yet, but the spinner is going, you could see the odds still changing. And if your minus 125 went to say 2.0, they will always spin you in at the worst odds. And then if you inverse that, the same is true. They will still spin you in at the worst odds. So they definitely are programmed in those spots to try to catch bettors. And I really don't know how much the changeover from dog to Ozune was in line with anything to do with sharp play. I don't necessarily know that it is based on my experience so far. But I do know that they have struggled with sharp bettors coming for them. And that isn't their only struggle, right? Like they've been banned from almost every regulated state now when they are the biggest offshore in the United States. So like players that are looking to play on their site, if you're a recreational player and you're pre-regulation era, so you're trying to bet on sports and you don't have FanDuel and DraftKings, you probably had a Bovada account or have a Bovada account, right? So who are the players today that are like, oh my God, I've lost my Bovada. I need to figure out how to keep playing there. They aren't the recreational ones. You're getting all the sharp guys that are finding workarounds to get accounts to play there. So, from an odds standpoint, we've seen them have the same lines as DraftKings. We've seen them have the same lines as Bet365, but more prominently now they have the same lines as Pinnacle. And essentially what they're doing is they're stealing lines from whomever has them when they need them, and they have a hierarchy of who they go to first. And Pinnacle's at the top of their list simply because they know that that's where they are trapping the sharp bettors that don't know different from when those odds change into playing on Pinnacle's lines. And not only that, they're nerfed. So if Pinnacle's at minus 105, they'll be at minus 110, right? So I personally, like just being totally transparent, had crushed dog multiple times, and I fell victim to the Pinnacle change. I treated a balance that I had there once they switched over as like, oh, it's fine, I can still beat these lines, and I lost my balance. So that's the infamous dog that I've referenced on stream, where I'm like, okay, I was down quite a bit on it. And when you go back, you realize you have to not use it as a primary sports book, and then all the more reason not to with the way they're accepting bets now. So I wouldn't say don't play there, but I do want the PSA out there for people where they're like, hey, this is what they're doing, and it will happen to you. Like, it's unavoidable.
Wow. Well, all right. Good PSA. Good warning out there for anybody who's moving over to play on there. Just something to be aware of as you sort of navigate books, because this is that time of year where you end up cooking a lot of books, and you might be looking to go play over there. All right, Scotty, you got a story for us, as I promised off the top of the show there, about getting paid by a book or not getting paid. I hope you got paid, but why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so first of all, I need to say, like,
backstory.
I'm relentless when it comes to getting paid from books. Like, to my own detriment. Like, it will make me lose sleep. And like, even if it's not a ton relative to, like, let's say it's like a unit in there, like it just drives me crazy. Like, even like just relatively speaking, I'm not really sure why. Maybe that's the psychology of money, or like why in Vegas, a little tiny bet slip I care so much more about than something that I have wagered 20x the amount on something else. But regardless, I work really hard when it comes to sports books not paying me. But Pace told me about a site called Ivy Bet. He's like, you got to sign up for this site called Ivy Bet. You can get it, pretty high. And like
Ivy Bet.
For me, I only I don't go to books where like I can't make an amount that matters to me. Like I say, what have you got? Like the first question I ask anyone like Pace, I'll say, hey, what have you gotten one to? Like that's what I think about. And then I'm like, okay, how do I get it there? And so that I know every book that I go into, I'm like, oh, I can get this much out of them. I can get this much out of them. And then I strategize how I'm going to do that based on sports and limits and things like that. Like I start there. So Pace told me to sign up for Ivy Bet. So I went and typed it in, Ivy Bet. And I signed up for IVY Bet, which very different site. And this is luckily I didn't get it super high. I got it to about a unit or a unit and a half, call it. And so I'm on the wrong site. And as I'm scrolling down, I see that there isn't even licensing on this thing. Like there isn't that stuff at the bottom that tells you where it's licensed. So I'm like, I'm in trouble here. This is going to be a grind. And so I started the process. They had me, I'm sure everybody is familiar, whoever amount of experience anyone here has gambling. If a book isn't paying you, you're going to have a email thread that's the length of a feature-length film. It's just back and forth between the two of you, them asking you to take pictures of yourself hanging off your balcony, holding yourself naked, like every type of way to verify, every type of bank statement, every type of proof of payment, until they eventually just shut down the account. And with this account too, like I had deposited 3/4 of a unit. And so like the profit in there was very small. And so right away I'm like, oh, this is definitely something almost criminal. And so once they closed the account, I kept emailing them and using my ChatGPT to do it. I really try, and I want to emphasize this to people when they're trying to get paid with books, to try everything in their being to not get angry with the book. Every part of me wants to just get so mad at a book and that just doesn't get you anywhere. And using your chat bot is really, really great to make it sound legal. So that's what Pace actually gave me that advice. He's like, I just use my ChatGPT to make it sound like a lawyer's writing something on my behalf. So I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So then I went that route, created a separate feed, and started doing it that way as my chat bot is speaking on behalf of me as if it sounds legal. Now that didn't get any traction either. And
Scott, you did also message me and we looked up the license and obviously we didn't find one. And I did say you're fucked. I didn't say do this or do that. I said you're fucked.
Oh yeah. You said I'm fucked. Yeah. You said
so I basically told Scott you're done. That money's gone.
Yeah. Because you've been there plenty of times.
Quit.
Yeah.
No, I won't quit. I won't quit. There was a time, like, I think it was, I don't remember if it was 8 years ago, but a book didn't pay us 2 Bitcoin at the time. And that at the time we were accumulating, like that's how I got all of my Ethereum. I ended up accumulating all this Ethereum because 1xBet paid us all the Ethereum when it was like $100 a piece and we held on to them all. So like at that time, that would like the relative what that would have been worth. So like that hurt me so much that I just don't quit. And so Pace said I'm fucked. And I then started an Ask Gamblers thread. So I don't know if anyone else here is familiar with that, but Ask Gamblers or Trustpilot, you can do that. So I did one with Ask Gamblers. I wasn't getting any response. And so then I went and searched the site, and I'm just trying to brainstorm ideas of like what angle, where can I reach out to? I reached out to there is a body in Puerto Rico, but no one got back to me. Like there's some email, but it just responded back saying that this email doesn't exist. So that's the legal authority of Puerto Rico.
That's the regulator.
Yeah, nothing there. Like just nothing has existed. It's just there's not even a server. And so then I went and I started searching the site and I clicked on payments and I remembered, I'm like, oh, right. Like I used Interact e-transfer to deposit here because I had deposited using crypto and Interact e-transfer. And so I said, oh, okay, well, it was, I believe in Canada, what we use is there's a third party called Gigadat, and they are the ones that work with Interact e-transfer. So I went to their website and I messaged them and I said, I got my chatbot to do it. And I just said that there's somebody that one of your customers is withholding my payment. I explained my story, explained the amount of money. And initially they asked me some questions. I gave them some more details. And then someone else chimed into the feed and said, sorry, we don't involve ourselves in these types of issues or anything like that. We're not responsible. And so, again, I did not quit. I'm relentless. So I came back and I said very politely, because I need their help, I need something from them. I said that, I just want to let you know that you may be doing business with somebody who's a criminal enterprise here, that somebody who's legitimately stealing money. So once I brought that into the equation, that they could be doing business with someone criminal or illegal, then they got involved, and I included in the bottom the contact for IvyBet on there. And so then they contacted IvyBet, and then IvyBet started responding to me in the Ask Gamblers thread. And then that's when we started having correspondence going back and forth. And so by that point, then they made me redo everything. They made me, because they wanted to not look like they were being criminal. They were saying that I wasn't providing something. So I was cooperative. I wrote every time IvyBet demanded something of me privately, because they had now started communications again, I wrote the update in the Ask Gamblers thread. So every time I would say, this is the current status. I have provided this, and this. I'll respond to you when I get a further update. And I would just make sure every single time I'm going back and forth between these two. Eventually, they asked for my banking details. And then I even updated that. I said, I have now provided my banking details, and then I will let you know once I have confirmation that I have received payment. So I just really made sure that I had the public and the private going. And I didn't write any of these. I really make sure that I use my chatbot for these so that I can stay calm and rational. And I let my chatbot take my emotion. Like, I get out there and I flood it all out there, and they clean it up for me. So that's probably the most successful get paid story out of the most shady book that I've ever had.
So Gigadat ended up being, without us specifically being able to say they got you paid, but they were the ones that got the communication rolling and potentially threatened that payment method being removed from that site, which they couldn't continue to scam other people.
Yeah, exactly. So like, if you stop the pipeline of their further scamming, like then maybe they'll pay attention. Now it might be worth it to pay me my money. So like I looked at it that way. I'm like, you have to look at it. If you don't have a legal leverage of some kind, you have to try to find financial leverage, whatever you can, to try to get paid. So that's what I'm trying to dig for. And so like, there's no way you can get these people in any type of legal trouble. It's not going to.
Right.
Not with that license. Not with that license.
No, that's why they went there.
That license is like baseball bats at the front door if you're trying to get any progress made with them, and they'll take your chances that you're not going to come to Costa Rica or wherever the fuck it is, right? That's crazy. It actually makes me think about some of the books that like haven't paid me and what I can go do from a payment provider standpoint. So if you were to take this one step further, just anyone that's listening to this and you think like, oh, this sports book didn't pay me, I did not use Gigadat. Well, what did you use? Those Bitcoin deposits, they are not wallet to wallet. There's a third party.
Yes.
Find out who the third party is and go down that route. I think that's really productive.
Yeah,
if
like you basically leverage the legitimate source, the legitimate
source in an illegitimate site. So like, if you just go through and find something. Visa, go to Visa.
Is a great one. Yeah, like if you're depositing on your credit card, go to Visa.
Go to MasterCard. Go to American Express. Go to somebody, because this is a railway for this place.
Exactly. Right? And it sounds like as soon as you made, raised the potential that they could be doing something criminal, that legitimate business was like, oh shit, okay, we got to address this.
Yes. Yeah.
You did just say the word raised, Shane. Scott, didn't you have a similar story with raised?
They eventually paid me. They eventually paid me.
Was this a Gigadat thing as well?
No, I didn't Gigadat them. I used Trustpilot, and that got them going.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were one of your classic sports books, Shane, that we talked about this with Interwetten. By the way, my Interwetten story we told on this podcast and we never followed up. About 3 weeks ago, they finally added e-transfer as a payment method. They didn't have it before. From my account, they have added that, and they did pay me my $6,400 or whatever it was, which is great to hear because they're spending a shitload in advertising on the hockey sites. But that one, they are a reputable book from what I can tell. Like in my major experiences with sports books, they are reputable from the standpoint of paying out. They just actually couldn't pay me. There's a difference there. But yeah, great story with both those books of like doing what needs to be done to make sure they're held accountable.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Scotty. And hopefully our audience members out there can learn something from that and maybe apply that if they need to. And hopefully they don't. But I know that most of us do get to those points at some point along the way where you got to use books that whether you'd use them intentionally or unintentionally in your case, that are a bit on the shadier side. These are ways to go about it. So appreciate you sharing that.
It's funny about going to the source though, Shane, because just one thing quick here.
Yeah.
One of the bookies that stole from me, he was affiliated with other brands, and I went to the other brands and showed them proof, and he was actually fired from multiple companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Multiple companies. And he's also, ironically, he lives in Costa Rica, which I found out later.
Hey, that's where a lot of these guys live.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the news and notes portion of the program here. And I've got one from the weekend. And again, something possibly shady going on. And this one really got people talking both in the inplayLIVE community, but also outside of it in a big way. And this is from the UFC this past weekend. So the UFC had one of its numbered events, formerly known as pay-per-views, but happening this weekend. And there was a fight on the main card, a little lower on the main card, but it wasn't a prelim fight. So it was sort of a more, higher end fight. People who are familiar with the fight game certainly know these guys, Michael Johnson and Drew Dober. And what we saw happen here was the line originally at the beginning of the week kind of opened with Michael Johnson as a small favorite, Drew Dober as a small dog. And throughout the week, it kind of hovered around that, we'll say. At one point, I looked, I think on somewhere on Friday, it was probably around minus 115 on both sides on some of the juicier books that will, charge that extra vig. So you were looking at something, like a coin flip type of fight here. Then on Saturday, things started to change and the line started to move very quickly to Drew Dober's side. He went from, minus 115 to minus 150. Got all the way into the minus 200 to even 250, depending on the book you were looking at. The line moved significantly. And Michael Johnson, Drew Dober's opponent, who is now a big dog as this line moves, was actually involved in an incident that took place a few months ago where one of his fights was canceled because of suspicious line movement. And so everybody starts raising the flag here as this line shifts, that this is looking like another incident of suspicious line movement. And, everybody starts wondering, well, what's going on? Why is this line moving? Is the UFC going to cancel this fight? What's happening here? And I want to share something, a tweet that I found from an MMA capper, not a high level capper or anything like that. I'm not sharing it for any reason other than to sort of say, look at what happened here, but it's all very suspicious. Okay. So this is posted 4:40 p.m. March 7th, 2026. I don't know the location of this person, so I don't know if that is Eastern time. But even if it was Pacific time, that's still significantly before the fight. We're talking several hours before the fight took place here. That this guy posted this: Michael Johnson has been paid to lose by round 2 TKO today. The gang called Gangster Disciples, coming out of St. Louis, Missouri, are holding his nephew hostage. Okay? I'm not trying to... I don't know that this has any legitimacy whatsoever, but Michael Johnson lost by KO in the second round. I mean, look, coincidence, maybe, But the suspicious line movement, along with this tweet from this capper, was enough to prompt people in the post-fight press conference to ask Dana White about it. And Dana basically coming out saying it's all bullshit, not real. None of this has any credibility whatsoever. Complete bullshit. Now, Pacer, I know you watched the fight. We watched the fight. A lot of people watched it. It looked like the cleanest knockout. Like, I mean, if Michael Johnson was taking a fall here, he took it in the worst way possible. The guy got completely just lights out, hit the canvas, head bouncing off of it. It looked like as real of a KO as you could possibly see. I think he actually had to be taken to the hospital afterwards because it was a pretty vicious KO. But then, the line movement, you get somebody posting a tweet like that, and now you got a whole bunch of people online analyzing how he was defending himself, hands low, didn't look like he had them up high, all of that sort of stuff, chin up in the air. All this stuff is out there. And I mean, look, you got a guy here who was involved in an incident already just a few months ago where his fight was canceled for suspicious line movement. I mean, no matter, like, I just don't, I think if you're the UFC here, like, there's just no winning in this situation at all. You cancel the fight, you've got a situation where, all right, now you've had a guy canceled twice for suspicious line movement. You don't cancel the fight and it goes exactly the way some capper said it was going to go. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty wild shit there in the UFC. I was trying to get on the rigged side myself and I couldn't because the line had moved so much. I didn't want the high juice. I was hoping to go grab a prop, but all the props had been pulled. Also, FanDuel was, I think, the first to pull the line completely as the line movement was taking place. But then other books followed suit, and sort of towards fight time, all you could really get was the juicy money line on books that were offering it at all.
Right. Well, okay. So let's look at like what we actually truly know in this case. We know that Michael Johnson had a fight canceled because of suspicious betting activity. Yeah. And that's no joke. We had the guy on the podcast that analyzes that activity explain to us how it works. If anything, it's extremely productive that fight was canceled because there was rigged money coming in on that one. Like, we know that for a fact. That's like case closed. That's the first thing we know. The second thing we know is that there was significant line movement in this fight. That's like, can't be debated, right? Now, to play devil's advocate about that tweet, social media has an unprecedented way of feeding you the information that you want to see or to fill a narrative that you believe. Okay. Doesn't matter if it's political, doesn't matter if it's this betting stuff like that. That's a major part of the algorithm that exists today. So much so that we will watch a fucking dog bounce a balloon off his head that lands in the Super Bowl winner's jar. And we tend to see it after that team won the Super Bowl. We very rarely tend to see it beforehand because not a lot of people believe it until it's happened, right? So in the case of this capper, I'm not looking at his Twitter page right now, but let's just say we went through his Twitter page and he's successfully shown us that pattern of having inside information that is accurate time in, time out. Now, if that was the case, I'd be like, holy shit, this is like truly fucking real. I'm going to assume that if we go through his page, there's not a lot of other information like that. And here's the thing. If he had that info, making it public exposes him to potential questioning, I would say. Like that's like a really delicate way of putting it. Potential questioning, number one, from the standpoint of having the knowledge of a gang having a child
there's
locked up.
Exactly.
Right. And then number two, having the knowledge of it to the degree that you can profit from it. That means that he, in theory, would know someone that knows someone that actually has the information. And if you're like the FBI or any investigative authority, like FBI is actually involved with Jonte Porter and Chauncey Billups and all these guys, like they're directly involved. He exposes himself to being questioned in something like that being real. So do I think that is true, or do I think that person actually had that information? I'm going to lean no on that basis. But in the gambling community, some people actually might have, if it is true, he might just be that dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it could be a case where he doesn't even know the source of the information, but just being in the capper community was given it or came across it, in some way, shape, or form, and then did the stupid thing that the other cappers in the community wouldn't have done.
Right. So there's like a bunch of people that know that getting things right is social media lottery. So like, I'll give you an example of that. We are going to see that next Sunday like you wouldn't fucking believe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's tons of people saying this. I'm from the future. And they go through their bracket and they tell you all the winners all the way through. And what happens is the ones that are right gain traction like you wouldn't believe. And people are like, holy shit, how is this guy doing this? But what it is there's thousands and thousands of people doing it. Someone is bound to start getting some of them right. It's just like the lottery. Someone is bound to win the lottery. Those numbers will get drawn. So if enough people are participating in this like randomness that includes one or the other picks, eventually you're going to have, this situation where someone's right or close to right. Then we are fed it. No one wants to watch this shit beforehand. You'd shut it off. You wouldn't look. But when you see they got the Rams playing not the Rams, when they got the Patriots playing the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, which seems like the most improbable matchup you would ever have from the season starting, you're dumbfounded. And that's the other thing. How many videos did someone like that make that were then taken down as they were wrong? Right? It can be the same person putting every combo together, putting them all out on social media as a test reel. So they're not even on his page when you go click on them. They're only seen by people that are not following you and they can't be clicked on your page. And then as soon as one's right, you flip it from a test reel to a real one. So there are tricks that people have to make them look legitimate, just like there's cheap tricks for psychics who charge you money that know shit about you somehow by throwing truisms at you. There's so much bullshit out there. So when I see something like that, I don't, let's put it this way, I don't necessarily buy it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, it was like, and I get it. I have that speculation as well, but all of it combined, I think is still a bad look for the UFC. And the very fact that Dana White has to sit there and take these kinds of questions is
crazy. I can't. That's the crazy part of that story. I can't believe that got to a reporter and got to Dana White.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's what I mean. That's kind of the age we live in here. So I just thought it was we'll see what comes of it too. And maybe the FBI will investigate it. Maybe, we might get updates on this as time goes on. Like I said, pretty sure Michael Johnson had to end up in the hospital there. So we'll see how he does. And if there is any more lines of questions that he has to face.
Maybe that's a part of the gig, Shane. Get me to the hospital.
All part of it.
I want my nephew back. Get me to the hospital.
So, Pace, you're saying that after all your story you just said here, Pace, you're saying what we should do is start 18 social media accounts where we predict the future and just run with the one we got right.
Yeah.
There we go. There's the edge.
There we go. That's it. That's it.
That's the engagement farming edge. That's what that is. Yeah.
I mean, you do it once and then what? Right? Then you've got your followers. Now what do you do?
Sorry, guys. Those were the test reel
thing
that I just told you.
Hit.
Just ride that one hit for forever. Yeah. There you go. Fun stuff. Scotty, you mentioned that you've been playing on Polymarket. Part of this next one that I want to share here, and this isn't really so much news, but there's a really kind of interesting blog that I'll follow every once in a while, and it's written by economists, and they'll touch on stuff in the gambling and betting space. And this one guy, MD Makowski, and if you guys are interested, for all of our audience out there, it's called Economist Writing Every Day, and they can go on there and they can post their thoughts on things. But he makes this interesting argument here. When do betting markets become endogenous? All right, I had to look that up. It's like, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. I looked it up, and basically it's the idea that the existence of something produces the result. So to give you an example here, he used Polymarket, had a market up, for a nuclear detonation, okay, will a nuke be detonated? Yes or no? And, they'll attach a date to it, right? By such and such date.
Sure.
And, they ended up pulling this market, probably for good reason, I would imagine here. I don't think that's the most becoming of markets for something like a betting exchange. But
will Polymarket be blown up before this date? Yeah, they're probably going to can that one, because how are we going to get paid?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but the implication, is this. He says, if a market exists for an outcome that a singular individual or small group can manifest, then as the market takes on greater volume, the maximal reward for independently producing the wagered upon outcome increases. So, if the market exists and volume increases, does that alone help produce the outcome? And I think it's kind of interesting. And so how I would apply that to sports, though, is you could make the argument that prop markets are an example of this, that simply because the prop market exists, and we've seen it, you mentioned John Tay Porter, that's a great example, right? If that prop market never exists, then John Tay Porter's results never take place.
Yeah.
In the first place.
Correct.
Right? Or alleged results. I think
Correct.
we stopped to say alleged. I don't know if
sure. Whatever.
But anyway, right? So it's this idea. And I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering, it got me thinking about Khomeini from last week when we talked about Khomeini and that whole thing, right? And we know, and I don't want to get too far down the conspiracy hole here, but we know that members of the Trump administration are on the board of Kalshi. They're in bed with Kalshi. We've talked about that a few times. And it's kind of like, does the creation of a market alone potentially lead to certain results? Or are the results known that they're going to be coming when the market is created in the first place? I don't, anyway, very kind of interesting way to look at things here. But, Scotty, I'd be interested in your take as somebody who's participating on betting exchanges like Polymarket.
Yeah, I initially go to, I would break this down the way I break down any conspiracy theory that comes out. As I say, how many people need to be involved to conspire to create this outcome? The more people that need to be involved, the less likely it is. So that's why you see fixing in individual sports. Player props are a great example. Like you just said, one person needs to control that outcome. When it comes to like a team sport and all of a sudden we need 15 people on board, it's going to become a lot less likely, just like anything. So I think when there's a market and that there's just a very small amount of people or one person can control the outcome.
Like streaking at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and especially if that
streaking is a great example.
Yeah, like there's a lot of markets out there about like Elon Musk. How many tweets are you going to make in a day? But Elon Musk has the most money in the world. That money doesn't mean anything. So you have to look at who would be able to control this outcome. What are their means? And could this market ever get to somewhere that would move their blood or change their life?
Yeah.
There was a moment in the NBA, I want to say last week, where a fan yelled at LeBron and he screamed at him, "One more board." LeBron gets the board and he turns back in the crowd holding the ball when everyone else has left the court and pointed at the fan. And then he got asked about it in the media afterwards. And he's like, yeah, he yelled at me, "One more board." So when I got it for him, I, gave him a shout out. And the thing is like, that one's funny because what you just said, Shane, is like that situation is not created if that market doesn't exist. We know that for sure. I don't think LeBron's rigging anything. The ball landed in his lap. He didn't like bat it away from, Luka over his head and say, "Give me that rock. That's mine." You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like that. The board landed right in his lap. He was getting it no matter what. But like those narratives then create the public going like, let's just say it was an under, right? And there was a bunch of money on it. Then the conspiracies start rolling in. But those overs on player props, I don't think are attached with a lot of conspiracies because people used to say Michael Jordan would bet on his games. So
yeah,
he didn't bet against himself. Look at his stats, right? And like, if you tell me that this is one thing, like one of Scotty and my buddies played golf at UW. And the coach said to him in university, he said, "There's no pressure that you can emulate better than gambling on yourself. So there's this country club, golf club down the road, wealthiest Microsoft, Amazon execs. This is Seattle, Bellevue, right? They all play there. This is where they play. And the university has a connection where the golfers get to play there because they're the best golfers around, right? And the club loves having the top talent there because they get to say, oh, I knew Brooks Koepka, like all that kind of stuff, right? So the coach would send the players to the country club and he'd say, leave your wallets here. And Charlie, our buddy, he told us stories of shaking over his putt because the putt was for like not thousands and thousands of dollars, but hundreds of dollars to a university student that has no money. And right. The coach I think the coach would have paid the tab. That's my personal opinion. But of course, they never had to pay. They always won. The students always won. And one of them had a line. This is such a fucking great line if you play golf. How many strokes am I getting? The kid said, I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. every single day of my life to give people strokes. It's a great line. Great line.
I love it.
Right? But the point I'm trying to make relating to the gambling on yourself is that I don't think that I can understand why it's a negative thing from the standpoint of like breaking your rules. But betting on yourself is associated with you performing at the highest level. Now, you could make counter arguments to that, like, oh, if Anthony Edwards is the only one trying to score, that isn't necessarily productive from the standpoint of the whole team getting the ball. But these are the things that happen in the world of gambling. And if you date it back to Michael Jordan, where we say if the market didn't exist, well, the market didn't exist then. He's betting through bookies and right. So this stuff exists no matter what. But yeah. LeBron getting an extra board that's in line with him betting on himself. I don't think that that's the worst thing in the grand scheme of all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think the players should be allowed to fully bet on themselves on anything they want, as long as it's on a betting exchange like Polymarket, because then it's a true market. If they're going to go grab all the liquidity, that means there's great odds on the other side. It's not going to guarantee that they win. That's just a true market representation of what's going to happen. Hey, LeBron likes to sort of bet on himself sometimes. Maybe he did. We all get to talk about that. Now it's a true market, right? It's not like it's a sports book that's capping it. It's just literally liquidity, who's betting it, whatever goes on.
Right. It's like somehow if it could be controlled where the player could only bet the over, which would never exist.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If the player could only bet the over, that would be the best way to set markets, because guys like Ant, who make fucking $75 million a year, he might make more than $75 million a year. He could go be like, I'm betting on my fucking self tonight. If you right?
Like that would be so fun if they could be public about it. If they could be public. Yeah. And then we get to speculate if he actually did or not. Did he? Did he not? That's just fair, right? Like maybe he does sometimes. He likes to do it on Fridays. Maybe he went out Friday the night before. Like you do that. You speculate on over-unders in games based on whatever's going on. Like the unpredictability that's going to find a true market. That would be a lot of fun.
And that's what happens in the collector's side of things. A lot of these guys that understand the collector's market, they buy their own cards. They're betting on themselves.
Yeah. That's smart. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting idea. Food for thought for our audience members out there. And if you guys are interested, check it out. Economists writing every day. Giving them a little bit of a shout out, because I find their stuff to just be interesting and really get me thinking about stuff, especially when it comes to sports betting. So wanted to share that. All right, final segment very quickly here. Upcoming hype. And did either of you know that there's another major bracket challenge that goes on in this month? You guys know about this?
The women's?
No. The women's is great too. I'm not discouraging anybody from playing that. Champions League soccer begins this week. Tuesday is the first games. Wednesday, as this podcast comes out, is the second day. And this is the Champions League final. So round of 16 is how it starts. Okay, so we start right there, 16 teams all vying for that number one. And it's tournament setup, but it's a home and away knockout format. Okay, so you play 2 games, get to play at home, you play away, and then it's aggregate scoring. Okay, so for anybody out there that isn't familiar with it, right? The goals you score in both games add up, all right, and then you move on based on the aggregate scores. So if there's a tie on the aggregate, then it goes to extra time. All right, something to know out there for anybody who wants to bet on this live. Understand that aggregate scoring matters and that these games can go to extra time. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I've been into soccer a little more over the last few years. A lot of that comes from my personal life and my girls loving soccer as much as they do. So I spent a ton of time involved in soccer at a very low level here in Ontario right now. But my one daughter's really kind of moving up in it. And more of my time spent these days in sports is me with a soccer ball. And I never played soccer growing up. So needless to say, I'm following soccer a little more closely now these days too. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it can be pretty exciting stuff. Champions League soccer, you see some of the best clubs in the world, going at it. So round of 16 begins, and then, 16 goes to 8, goes to 4, goes to a final. Very exciting stuff throughout the month of March. And all of that stuff is on earlier in the day, typically. So, you can mix it in with some of your March Madness, and then you can have a full day of sports there if you're interested in it. I don't know. You guys follow this at all?
I used to follow the Champions League a bit, but no, I really don't now, which is, I don't know. It's just a lot, Shane.
It's a lot.
Shane, you making any money? Sure. You making any money betting that?
That's all we care about, Shane.
That's all you care about. Yeah. Little bit in soccer as I've kind of dialed into it a little bit more. I've got some stuff that I rely on and look at in terms of tools. But it hasn't been too bad. It is live. And I'm really kind of, for the Champions League though, no. I've never made any money betting on Champions in the past.
I'm sure there are ways to, but you just have to assume it's efficient, right?
It
doesn't mean you can't make money on the Super Bowl, right? But you just have to.
These markets are highly efficient, but you can also, that means you can get down on them too. And exchanges, all the exchanges got them, including SX, sponsor of our show. They've actually got significant liquidity on it. So check that out.
One last tidbit when you bring that up, when it comes to like efficient markets and like lots of money down and Polymarket and Calci, actually more so Polymarket. If I was going to bet this Champions League stuff, I would go directly to Polymarket and I would find the stuff that has the most action and the most emotion behind it. Because I know soccer fans are really fucking emotional about their game. And so like I find that it's the opposite. On a sportsbook, the smaller the market is, the easier it is to beat. And sometimes on Polymarket, depending, if there's more liquidity, it's actually better because it's a bunch of humans being super emotional about a situation occurring. So if you're there right when there's a goal in some way, like there's a lot of people that just hit bet market. You can get maybe the draw or a double chance on the other side at some crazy price if you know how they're
way
priced.
Better than the sportsbook, right?
Yeah, how it should be priced on a sports book. I mean, let's say that if this team's down 1, the double chance is now 4. You might be able to get like 6 emotionally right when that goal is scored. That's how I would go about beating that. Like that's what you would do in Olympic hockey. Olympic hockey, there was a ton of liquidity, and all you do is wait for like the team that was 4.0 on the 3-way to be down a goal, and you're going to get them like 12-1 when it should be like 6 on Polymarket. Right.
Yeah, great little piece of advice there.
That's how I
and I'll also, just before we sign off here, I'll just mention I did place a wager on Champions League for the final. I've got a very long shot, but this team has been overperforming big time. Also, somebody was telling me that they only need to focus on Champions League right now because their league play is over. Bodo Glimt, 51-1 to win the Champions League.
They'll be rested.
They'll be rested, yeah, and they can spend all of their time focused on it. So Bodo Glimt, they're a Norwegian football club. Big long shot, 51-1 to win it all. I placed a little future on that.
Nice. Shane.
What do you cap them at, Shane?
Probably like 30-1 in real odds. I some of my friends who follow this a lot closer think they'll make the semis, and they sort of suggested if they make the semis, you might just want to cash out there. But it looks like they've got a good chance. Bodo Glimt. They're from They're from Norway. They're Norwegian. It's spelled a little funny, so it's like it's Bodo with the O with this the no entry sign. It's like that is the O/Glimt, better known as just Glimt. So check them out at 51-1, and they've been overperforming over the last little while. It's been kind of impressive. So if they can keep it going, might be able to get some big cash out value there. We'll see.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, guys, Scotty, a lot of fun having you on the show. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Lots of fun.
Yeah, big time. All right, Pace, Scotty, and sports bettors around the world. Till next week, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.